Off the bench with Razzie Sport.
Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Off the Bench podcast. I'm your host, Ron. Also here with my co-host, Coach Ron and Coach T. How are you guys doing today?
Good
We're doing
morning.
great.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
All right, that's great. All right, so this episode, we're honored to be joined by former Marshall University basketball coach, Coach Adam Williams. Coach Williams has spent years in the game, impacting players not only on the court, but in life through recruiting, mentorship, and leadership at the college level. And they're going to walk through his journey into coaching, mentors, open doors for him all along the way, and the lessons that shaped who has become in this profession. How are you doing today?
I'm great, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Welcome on. Welcome on the show, Coach.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay.
Mhm.
So just going to jump right in. So how did you first get into coaching? What was there a defining moment or influence that pushed you toward this career, Coach Williams?
You know what? My dad was my high school coach, and he was also a college coach. And then, like back in the day in the 80s and early 90s, when it wasn't the G League, it was the CBA. And he was a CBA head coach. And so, I was kind of born into it like a lot of coaches and players are, and wanted to follow in his footsteps. And as you get older and you start going into college and you realize I'm going to have to get a real job here in the next couple of years, coaching sounds pretty daggone good. And the ability to stay in the game, impact kids, and at that time, it wasn't even impacting kids. It was, I'm kind of hanging out with my boys who I just got done playing with in college.
Right.
I was a GA. And so, it just sounded awesome. And I was like, well, my dad made a career of this. Why can't I? And so that was kind of the vision and why I went into that process. And I love people, man. And coaching is one thing where you can impact people and be around people. And so it gave me a chance to be able to do something that was a passion of mine.
Right. That was good. That was good.
All right. Yeah, that's definitely great. So who are some of the coaches or mentors early in your career that gave you your first opportunities in this profession?
Well, the number one guy is the head coach down there at Stetson right now, Donnie Jones. And, Donnie was an assistant for Billy Donovan at the University of Florida. And they had unbelievable teams. It was Donnie, Anthony Grant was on staff, Larry Shyatt, John Pelfrey was on that staff at one point, but just really a legendary college basketball staff. And after they won back-to-back national championships, Donnie got an opportunity to become a head coach at Marshall, which is where I played. And it coincided with me transferring. I went to Kentucky out of high school, and I ended up transferring to Marshall because I wanted to play a little bit more. I wasn't getting to play a lot. And so, a lot of these guys now transfer because they want to get paid a little bit more. I wanted to play a little bit more. Okay.
Right.
So there was a little difference. And so I went to Marshall, and Donnie got there when I was transferring, and it was a good marriage. And after I played for him for a couple of years, I made it pretty well known, Coach, I want to do this. I want to do what you're doing, man. And he told me from the day that I told him that, Adam, as long as you do the right things in our program, carry yourself the right way, represent Marshall the right way off the court, you'll have an opportunity to be a graduate assistant wherever I coach, whether it's here or anywhere. And, he lived up to that. He gave me an opportunity. And then he hired me 3 more times after that.
Wow.
And so really, I give Donnie Jones and Sean Finney, who's on his staff there at Stetson as well. Those were, Sean was on staff at Marshall as a coach. But I give those 2 guys all the credit in the world for giving me the opportunity to be a college coach because, they hired me, they gave me opportunities, they taught me tough lessons. And so those 2 are the catalysts for my career.
Out of all those mentors or coaches, who do you feel you learned the most from? And what was the biggest lesson they taught you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I want to preface that by saying, I've had an opportunity to work for a lot of guys. Okay. And I don't know how good of a coach I was or am, because I don't know if you ever aren't a coach once you are one. But I think that the best coaches are able to take something from everyone. And I think there's no way that any one guy is going to agree 100% with somebody else. Like, you're not going to agree 100% with your dad on something with coaching, or I'm not going to agree 100% with my dad or my mentor. But I tried along the way to form within my philosophy, take a little bit from each coach. What do I love that they do? Or what do I see that they do that I maybe don't like how they do it, but I can see that application and use it in my way. But if I could pick one guy that taught me more than anything, it would be Sean Finney in the office. Coach Jones, X's and O's on the floor, how to coach basketball. I mean, he's at the top of the heap. But Sean Finney is the best office coach I've ever been around. And what I mean by that, so many young people and young coaches think that being a college coach is showing up, going to practice, and recruiting guys. And that's a small part of it, for sure. But there are so many other things: academics, compliance, making sure that uniforms are ordered, making sure that travel arrangements are taken care of. And there's all these logistical items that people don't think of in coaching. And Coach Finney taught me all of those. And when I was a young assistant going in, I had no idea about any of that stuff.
So let me ask you this, Coach. So there's a lot of players out there that have the dreams and goals and aspiration to go to the next level, play professional ball or go to the NBA some sort, right?
Right.
What would be one of the things that you would say to that gentleman where he has that ability to go, but he's just not getting all the cards to fall in his way. Now you stated that you want to play this and that, but then you fell in love with the game. So what would you tell that young man that still wants to be around the game? What would you suggest to them?
I think that any time that somebody's considering staying in the game as a coach, you have to realize it's an extremely demanding profession, because what you're doing is you're volunteering to become more or less a parent to your whole team. So, I have 2 young children myself here that I raise, but as a coach, I mean, all those guys are your responsibility. And you have them at a really pivotal age from 18 to now, early to mid 20s. But you have to be ready to say to yourself, I'm going to sacrifice time, because like when I recruited your son, I look at you and say, I'm making this commitment that I'm going to help raise this young man hand in hand with you. We're going to be a team. And so I would want young men to understand it's so much more than just coaching the game or getting a guy to make a shot or drawing up a play. You got to be a mentor. You got to be a psychologist. You got to be a best friend. You got to be a father figure. And you have to be able to do all those things while complimenting their actual parents who are relying on you to be that bridge and that gap away from home. And so, I mean, it's a really important job. I think the Reverend Billy Graham said, coaches will impact more young men in one life than the average person will in a lifetime, in 1 year. In 1 year, a coach will impact more young men than the average person will in a lifetime. And so it's a powerful, powerful position to take on. And I would encourage guys that want to stay involved, that maybe can't move on to play. It's an awesome, rewarding thing, but no, it's very important and very powerful.
Wow.
That's great. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they're gonna get to around recruiting and highs and lows. So Coach Williams, what are some of your most memorable moments in recruiting, either landing a player you really wanted or a moment that helped you change the direction of a program?
Yeah, you know what? When I was a Division II head coach at a little school called Salem University in West Virginia, they were in the dumps, man. They had had a tough time. They had lost more games the 10 years previous to my arrival than any school in the country, Division I through III. And so I took the job as a challenge. It was in my home state of West Virginia, and because I wanted to be a head coach. And in my second recruiting class, I signed a young man named Malik Toppin. And Malik was one of the top-rated junior college players at Barton Community College in Kansas. And he had a couple of transcript issues that kind of made him fall through the cracks where maybe I think it was an academic advisor did not put him in the correct class to get him to a Division I school. Okay. And so he was a really talented player. He's a Division I talent. He's still playing professionally. But I just put my nose to the grindstone. I drove to Malik's mother's house in New Jersey twice, sat down in her living room, laid out a plan for him. And I think I earned their trust by doing that.
Mhm.
And Malik came to Salem and he scored 1,000 points and had 500 rebounds in 2 years.
Wow.
And he took us from one of the worst teams in the country to my third year that we were there. We won the most games they had won in almost 20 seasons. And he really, we put ourselves on the map, but it's all about players. So he helped put us on the map. That was probably my one, recruiting win that was the most impactful based on the level I was at. But as far as recruiting in general, I mean, I think of all the stories. I think of coming to your grandmother's house and sitting there and talking to you guys and sharing the plan with you. And I think of the official visits. And I think of kids that we didn't get and then following them and how are they doing. And it's rewarding for me to make relationships with people and then to be able to follow them and see them have success. And so, you have wins in recruiting and you love beating out another school to get a kid because that's the competitive side of coaching. But at the end of the day, it's still about people and still about seeing young men go on and chase their dreams and have successes that, you sell to them in recruiting. And whether you get them or not, you still want them to be successful.
Successful. Right. Right.
All right. So the next thing I got here is were there any recruiting battles that didn't go your way, that didn't go the way that you hoped? What did you learn from those type of experiences?
I think anytime you invest in something, like anytime you invest in a young person, anytime you invest in anything, I'm sure that you guys have had projects in life or things you've really, really thought were going to work out that didn't. Okay.
Mhm.
And so when I would recruit somebody, in my mind, I'm getting that kid and I'm going to win. I'm going to win the battle and I'm going to sell to his family. I'm the best guy for him to play for. My program's the best program. My head coach, if I'm an assistant, is the best head coach. I'm going to lay out the reasons why. And so if you get to the end, every kid that you end up not signing is a disappointment because you're emotionally invested in that kid. I mean, you're texting with them every day. You're flying down to watch them play. You're spending time with their family. You're getting to know their brothers, their sisters, their grandparents, their cousins, AAU coaches, high school. I mean, it's an investment. And so when you miss, it hurts and it stings. And so every kid that I haven't gotten, it's hurt like a freaking snake bite, man. I mean, it's hurt that I haven't gotten them. But the question I always ask when they let me know, hey, coach, I'm going to make another decision. I say, you know what, man, I respect that because at the beginning of the process, I tell every young man, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but I told Isaiah, I want you to go to the best place for you. Wherever that is, that's where I want you to be because I want you to be successful. And so if they give me the bad news, I'll always say to them, I'm happy that you found your spot, but I also want to know why we weren't the spot. So that helps me learn moving forward. Was it something I did? Was it a controllable that I could have done differently? Or was it just not the right fit? And I maybe read it wrong from the beginning. But I think, good coaches, they learn from their either mistakes or they learn from things they could have done differently. I'm not going to say bad coaches, but maybe average coaches get a little bit bitter and get angry and they get upset at the kid and all that. That's no way to be because guess what? If you're a young man and you have options, you're going to have to tell every option but one no.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tell everybody no except one person. And you know what? That's hard to do as a kid. It is, especially if you're a good kid. That's hard to do. And so I think that would be my thing. I tried to learn and just grow as a coach. Could I have done something better? Could I have been more impactful with his parents? Should I have presented our academic space a little bit better at our university? Whatever it may be. But as we always, as coaches tell kids, it's a two-way sword. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. That's not just as a player, that's as a coach.
Yep.
And so we had to learn from things that we could have done better as well. And I always tried to do that.
Okay.
Well, Well, from experience here, Coach, you did a great job. We definitely appreciate you on this side of town.
Well,
The
I
Brown
appreciate
family
that.
definitely appreciate you.
And you know what, man? I mean, I think that it's all coming out in the wash now with the job that you've done with your children and the successes that they're having in life and in basketball, that it's been pretty impressive to follow from afar.
Appreciate that.
All right, so we're gonna get here to our next segment here, NIL and the future of college basketball. So with the evolving landscape of name, image, and likeness, NIL deals in college basketball, how do you see the future of the sport changing?
Yeah, I mean, we're living it right now. We're watching it. It's changing every day. There's a new court case every day. Somebody's getting sued every day.
All
Lawyers are
right.
making more money than ever every day. It's if I could predict that, then I'd go buy a lottery ticket, to be honest with you, because it's just so hard to tell what's coming next, man. I think the right thing has been done with kids having the ability to get paid. When I played in college, if you got a hamburger from a booster, you got put in NCAA jail.
Right.
They suspended you,
Yep.
and so has there been a little bit of an overcorrection? Maybe, okay. But at the end of the day, it's hard for me to ever fathom you can tell a kid you can't earn money off your name, image, and likeness.
Mm.
I think that's just a ridiculous notion to even say that. Okay. Now, are we into a pay for play situation now? Probably. I think we probably are at this point. And I think there will eventually be some guardrails that are put up, whether it's laws from Congress or whether the NCAA gets some kind of antitrust exemption, which may be coming down the road. But end of the day, man, kids deserve to be paid for what they're worth. College athletics is a full-time job. I had friends that I lived with in college that weren't athletes, and I'd be going to practice to work on practice, and then I'd have study hall, and then I'd have mandatory this and mandatory that. Well, they're going to their little side job making money and going out and partying at night. And I'm not saying I didn't have benefits that came along with being an athlete, but the number of sacrifices, I think the financial aspect that was given 10 years ago probably did not live up to what the actual value of what these kids give to schools actually is.
Right. I agree. So having said that, Coach, do you think, the NIL is strengthening the college world or is it weakening it? I mean, just from a personal, standpoint, what do you think?
Well, from a talent standpoint, it's definitely getting better. It's making college better because it's keeping kids around that would be trying to get out to make money.
That is true.
And so, if you have a kid now who's like a fringe second round pick, like, why would he go and maybe not get a guaranteed contract in the NBA when he can come back and make $4 million?
Right.
So
Right.
it's keeping a higher level of talent. It's definitely doing that. I think where there needs to be some adjustment, and I don't know how you do this, is with the transfer portal. And, that's simply, sometimes it's saving kids from themselves, sometimes, not always, because, coaches make their moves and do their stuff too. I think there needs to be, like, for example, if a coach leaves a job, that's a free transfer. That kid gets to leave. Yeah. Because, come on now, most of the time these young men are going to play for the coaches. I'm not saying they don't go to play for the school, okay?
Right.
But they're not going to go play at a school that they like for a coach that they don't like.
Facts. That's true.
So
that is true.
My personal belief is a kid should have one free transfer at any time, no matter what, okay? Then if his coach ever leaves, that's an additional transfer. If his coach leaves again, he gets another transfer, okay? Where it's becoming a little tougher, and it's hard to quantify because the argument is always, well, coaches can leave every year if they want to. That's true. That is true. But they also sign contracts and have buyouts, and there's contractual agreements in those situations. But it's become harder than ever to build a program as a coach. And that kind of leads me to this statement. It's more important than ever who you recruit. And the type of kids you recruit that have strong parents at home, that when things get hard, there's a difference between unfair and hard and fair and hard. Unfair and hard Stinks. We don't want that. Okay. But fair and hard is growth for young men. And if they have good, strong parents that when they pick up the phone and say, Mom, Dad, this is wrong, they're treating me wrong. What do you mean they're treating you wrong? Well, I don't get the same opportunity. Well, what do you mean you don't get the same opportunity? Well, this guy's 2 years older than me and he gets all the chances to play. Like, that's part of life, man. You know, let's battle through some of that and try to get better. Okay. And so the right families can discern whether a kid's being treated correctly or not. And then when kids can battle through that, when you get a kid that's a junior in college that's had to battle through some adversity and he's battled through adversity and he's gotten better, you got a real problem now. You got a player that has been through it. He's been through the fires. He's been through the wars, and he's come out on the other side better. And so that's why I think who you recruit, you got to recruit families as much as anybody. And guess what? It's really hard with that transfer portal because you got about 3 months to form a team. Yes. And so where you used to get to know kids for 2 or 3 years recruiting, now it's 2 or 3 months. And so it's a much more difficult, challenging job. NIL's made it more difficult. The portal's made it more difficult. But the top coaches also make $10 million. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I mean, I don't know many people that make $10 million that have an easy job.
Right. I love how you put that because that is so true. That is so true. Oh, man. So go ahead, Ronald. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So next, I'm gonna get to our next segment here. So this year, Coach Williams, you made the decision to step down from coaching. Can you walk us through to what led to that decision at all?
You know what? It's real simple, man. I love coaching. I mean, you guys can probably hear it. That's my passion in my voice.
Oh, yeah.
But I love my family more than coaching.
There you go.
And I have a commitment as a husband and a father. You get one chance to do it the right way. Mm-hmm. You get one shot. And my son is 9 and my daughter is 7. Mm-hmm. And I'm laying in bed. It's about 1:30 in the morning on a Wednesday night in April. And I'm texting an agent in Spain about a player in Croatia. And the light bulb came on in my head. What am I doing? Right. I got a little boy over there that's going to want to go to the gym tomorrow. I didn't go with him today because I had practice. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And family is the reason. That's the only reason. You know, people will tell you as a young coach, don't go into coaching if you're chasing money because money might not come. You know, everybody sees, you know, they see the Floridas and the Dukes and the Carolinas and the Kentuckys and the Kansases. Those guys are making life-changing generational money as coaches, okay? Well, there's 50 to 60 jobs like that. All the rest of the jobs is not life-changing generational money, but it's life-changing time commitment still. And that's all the way down to the Division III, NAIA, JUCO. Like, I'm telling you right now, those junior college coaches in Florida spend as much time and work just as hard as the guys in the SEC. Okay? They just don't have the resources or the salary.
Right.
Okay? And so those high school coaches down there in Florida, taking their teams around and AAU and summer ball, those dudes are committed, man.
Yeah.
And that is a full-time commitment if you do it the right way. And so while I love coaching, I could no longer look at myself in the mirror, and I wanted to give my son and my daughter what my dad gave me when he was the head coach for that CBA team, and he resigned his job and took a high school job so he could raise me. And so family became more important than my passion of coaching. My passion was replaced with the passion for my family. And that's the only reason I got out. That's the only reason.
Oh, let me ask you this, because you just stated that, you know, what your dad did and all. So do we see Coach Williams coaching a 9U team, 10U team in a circuit?
You know what?
This year?
It's funny, Ron. Whenever I made the announcement to the marshal, the media, and everything, I joked and said you might see me on a sideline of a 9 or 10 and under AAU team this summer. Okay, and because you know I still want to impact, man. I still want to impact kids. I just want to make sure that my son gets to reap those rewards, you know. And there's trade-offs. I mean, he would get to be running around at practice, and the kids on the team, they treated him like he was, one of the dudes and one of the players. That was special. That was special, and he'll miss that. But to me, I want to get that boy in the gym and work him out and make sure he has the opportunity, if he wants to be a player, to be a player.
To be a player.
Yes.
Now, don't forget about the little baby girl now. She got to get out there, too.
I'm trying to twist her arm. I don't know if she's going to be a hooper or not. We're still looking for her calling right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still looking for her calling. My sister played at Marshall back in the 70s, and she is hoping that my little girl's going to want to be a little player, but she's still got some decisions to make. She's 7, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah, plenty of time.
Now that you've stepped away from coaching, do you believe at any time you will ever consider returning to being a coach at a high level, either college or professionally?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would love to, but it's got to be the right job, and I was really at my dream school, man. Like, to set the table for you guys, my dad's a Hall of Famer at Marshall in 2 sports. My sister played basketball there. I played there. My wife is an alum. Most of my friends are still in that area. I mean, that was my spot.
Wow.
That's 35 minutes from the driveway that I grew up in. Okay, Marshall.
Wow.
And so, I loved it. My dream was maybe to one day be the head coach there if that would ever work out. Obviously, Coach Jackson is the head coach, doing a phenomenal job. They're on TV right now playing Appalachian State for first place in the Sun Belt. But I think that for the right situation, absolutely. But so many things come into play in that. As you guys know, as men, when you make decisions for your family or you make professional career decisions, timing's got to be right, money's got to be right, location's got to be right. There's just a lot of factors that go into it. Now, having said that, if Coach Calipari at Arkansas called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, Adam, you want to come be my top assistant? I'll give you $700,000, and you can be an SEC coach," I'd probably take that job. Okay, I'd probably take that job. But
Coach, but then I might have to stop talking because we Gators over here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. The Gators down there. And but it becomes a situation where it just everything would have to be right for me to do that. Or in about 11 years, when my daughter graduates, then I might start looking again, trying to get back in. Because you can't lose sight of the why you do things. Your why. I'm sure you've heard. Again, end of the day, I got out for time with my family. And so it would have to be just a ridiculous deal for me to trade that right back in. And I'm in a good place right now to be able to spend that time with them. And as you know, Ron, I mean, there ain't nothing like having that chance to raise your kids, man.
It's true.
And to spend that time with them and have those memories. And so, yeah, I'm not closing the book, but right now it's close to closed for now.
Okay.
For now. Oh yes. No, I totally get it, Coach, because I mean, when Ronald here, when he started playing basketball, I had an organization. Coach Terrell and I had an organization, More Than Basketball, which we still have now today. But back then, we had over 100 kids that we were coaching.
Wow!
And let me tell you, getting home at 11, 12 o'clock, and looking at my kids because they were there with me, not getting their homework done in time. I mean, I had to give something up, and it was the organization. I had to put the organization on the back burner to raise my kids. But here we are now. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see you back on that hardwood.
Okay, sure. I like it. I like the vision.
Yes, sir. We're going to see you there again.
Look. Speaking of vision, one of the things that kind of stands out for me listening to you is the like the level of self-awareness, self-reflection. To even come to making the decisions to quit.
I wouldn't say quit.
Is that
But
something
just
that
remove himself? I would say.
Yeah,
not necessarily quitting.
Well, when you retire or
But
whatever.
you know what? There's a power that quit is a powerful word there, and here's why. Because it was an emotional decision, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you there were tears from me, because you feel like you're quitting.
Mm-hmm.
You do. Okay. So that's an appropriate word of feeling. That's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I'm giving up. This has been my dream. I'm 40 years old. My wife is 42. She's been with me since I was 18. She was with me when I went to IMG Academy as a player, stayed with me at Kentucky, stayed with me at Marshall through the whole coaching journey. Small schools, big schools, schools in the middle of nowhere, schools in big cities. And so we've been on this journey together. And now I'm looking at myself in the mirror like I'm quitting, man. I'm doing what I tell every one of those kids every day in practice not to do when it gets hard. I'm quitting. And so I had to take a step back, coach, and the emotions were heavy. But then when I realized my why, because of my family, it became less quitting and more, I'm making the right decision for me now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think that's a very appropriate term. I felt like I was quitting. And I watch these games on TV now, and I miss it, man. You know, I miss it. But the trade-off, which you get back, that I never had before. Like I was the lady that hired me, my current boss, my current position. She couldn't believe this. I never had 3 weekends in a row off in 17 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't have them off. Okay. I hadn't been on a family vacation since my son's born.
Yeah.
You know, now when I was down there in Florida, when I was down there in Florida living in DeLand, we drive to Daytona Beach on the weekend. It's, you know, right up the road, 15, 20 minutes. That's our vacation.
Right.
But that's where I lived, you know?
Right.
And so it's, I've gained those things. But I think, it's hard, man. I mean, it's like you tell kids, when you coach kids, when you guys have coached young men, you ask them to give you everything they got. Yeah. I want you to give me every bit of effort, every bit of concentration, all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, everything. I want you to give everything to me. And a lot of kids won't do that because they are afraid, what if I do it and it doesn't work? Mm. What if I give you everything you're asking of me and it doesn't pan out and I'm not good enough or I don't make it? And so during my reflection time, it was tough because I felt like I had given it every single thing I got and I didn't quite reach my pinnacle of my goal. And so, those are, and I talked to a lot of guys that made the same decision that I made, you know, the year before or 2 years before that stepped away. I mean, it was like an emotional counseling thing, man. I almost needed counseled. And I know that sounds funny, but when you put yourself out there as much as I did and as much as you have to be good at something, it's, you empty yourself out and you give a lot of yourself. And so extremely hard decision, extremely emotional decision. And, I think that you live with the benefits of what you gain, but you can't have it all. You can't have it. I can't have that and the time with my kids. There's only 24 hours in a day. Can't have both.
All right. So looking back at your coaching career, what are some of the most proud, both on and off the court, like your proud moments?
Well, that one's easy, man. That again, the relationships. Going back to, like, I'm texting the kids at Marshall, that are about to play, and hey, coach, we miss you, man. Got a big one tonight. And then guys I coached in my very first coaching job at West Virginia Tech 17 years ago that have gone on and had families and been successful and play professionally or have jobs, and just being able to have those relationships, getting to meet their kids, getting invited back to their weddings. I mean, that's what it's all about. Winning basketball games is a byproduct of the relationships that you form with the players. Mm-hmm. There's not been very many coaches that are really good coaches that win at a high level that their players don't love them. Right. You even hear guys like, the old Huggy Bear, Bob Huggins, man. I mean, 10 years ago, he was the face of intensity, and that was a tough dude to play for. Yeah. But when Deshaun Butler tore his ACL, he was down on that floor in Indianapolis, holding his head like a baby, giving him a hug because he loved him and he cared about him. And if you talk to any of those guys that played for that guy, who's supposedly the meanest dude at the time in college basketball, they kill for Bob Huggins.
Mm-hmm.
And so having my guys feel that way about me was special. I wanted them to love me, know I was going to coach them hard, but no, I always had their back. And then we had this relationship, you know, when I'm 60 and they're 45, we're still tight.
Right.
You know, and so that was it. That's been the memory. That's what, you know, it keeps me going still, seeing the success that, you know, your sons are having, Ron, and just all of that. That's a microcosm of what makes it awesome to coach.
Yeah, Coach. I really like the way you articulate things. So I want to kind of throw a curveball at you.
Okay.
I would like for you to build me a prototype. You know, for all the young guys that are going to watch this, and they have to they want to get into being mentored, you know. So what is the prototype of that individual, like their mindset or their characteristics, behaviors that will lead to a successful pairing between the mentor and the mentee?
There's two questions every kid has to answer, okay? And they have to be asked the right questions. But the questions are, number one, do I have permission to coach you? Can I coach you? Will you allow me to coach you? Okay. Almost every kid is going to say yes, right? The second question to follow that up, do I have permission to tell you the truth? Because if I have permission to coach you and I have permission to tell you the truth, now we're on the same level. You understand I'm just trying to make you better, but the information you're about to receive is going to be unfiltered and real. But you've given me permission to give you that information. And you have to make sure that kids understand, I love you, I care about you, but if you can't handle the truth and you don't want to be coached, then this relationship's not going to work. Because my job is to coach you and tell you the truth. So as soon as they grant you that permission, that's the beginning of the relationship. That's the biggest thing. And so many kids think they want to hear the truth, but a lot of times the truth hurts. Sure. You know, I don't care what nobody says. I don't know many people that love criticism. So I don't know many people that love to hear they didn't do something well, because most human beings on this earth, when they do something, are trying to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're trying to do a good job. So when you put yourself out there and you try to do a good job and you don't do a good job, that stings a little bit. It stings. Right. And so those permissions have to be granted. The relationship can grow from there. And then sometimes you run into kids that think they want to be coached, and they'll give you that permission, and then they buck back at it. And then it becomes your skill as a coach to be able to weed through that process. And you know what? They always, some kids can't be saved. That's real in coaching. Right. Not as human beings, but in coaching. Some kids can't be saved, man. Some kids, I've tried, and I've talked to mom or dad or uncle, or I've taken them to eat, or I've helped them with homework, or I've had them to the house to hang out with my kids. And like, sometimes they're just good in every area, but when they step on that floor, something clicks up here and you just can't ever reach them. You know, now it's your job as a good coach to continue to attempt to reach them until the end of time, but you're not always successful again. And so, you know, the perfect kid doesn't exist, but the best kids to coach are the ones that will accept the coaching, accept the criticism, try to apply the lessons that you give them, try to get better, keep coming back for more. You know, coach, I want you to coach me hard, man. When I mess up, I want you to let me know that I messed up. Those usually end up being the best players. You know what? Because guess what, coach? When you have kids that don't want to be coached, how are they going to get any better? How are they going to get any better? You can't get any better.
Stay stagnant. Yeah.
You stay the same. Because if you think you got all the answers, but you actually don't, and I have some of the answers and I'm trying to give them to you and you don't want to receive that, how are you ever going to get better? Because you're never going to change what you're doing that's wrong anyway.
Yeah.
And so the best players are usually a combination of guys with natural physical ability that also have some common sense, that'll listen to a coach and take those lessons and apply it. Those are the guys that get better year over year over year.
Right. So I'm actually assuming that, because we deal with a lot of the youth, right? So
Mhm.
I'm assuming that same, approach would work for a high school student, like starting freshman up to, through his high school career, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that, you just, it's like you hear the chopping wood, pounding a stone, carrying the water. Like it is a consistent issue that you have to bring it every day as a coach and prove to these kids, I'm in your corner. I want what's best for you. But at the end of the day, you have to receive what I'm giving you. I want the best for you, man. I want you to reach every goal. What are your dreams? Tell me your dreams. Kid tells you his dreams. Love it. I want you to reach all those dreams. Here's the blueprint. Okay. Because I've seen 70 guys do what you say you want to do. So I know how to do it. All you got to do is listen. I got the answer to the test. I got them. And so I think that's maybe even more applicable at that age because while kids are obviously being formed 18 to 23, 14 to 18 is a big jump, big jump, and so if they don't get those skills from 14 to 18, then they never really get the opportunity to get them 18 to 23. If you're not good enough at 17, 18 to be recruited, you're not going to get that second opportunity in college.
That is true. That is true. That is true. I mean, again, I'm going to throw a little bit more curveballs in here too, with all that information with the kids and stuff, like how do you get the parents to buy in? Because like for me, for instance, we do everything. I mean, most parents, let's just say, they would do a lot of things for their kids, right? So how do you get the parents to buy into that system as well?
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest thing because most parents think their kids are the best, and that's a natural. I mean, I like to think my children are the best.
Right.
And we used to joke around with some of my coaching buddies. Kids usually think they're probably a level better than what they are from a recruiting standpoint. So if it's a mid-major player, he thinks he should be in the SEC or the ACC, Big Ten. Parents usually think they're 2 levels better.
Right.
So, if the kid's like a Big South player, the parents are thinking, "Oh, why's Purdue not calling?"
Right.
And I think that's a natural thing to love your children and to think your children are maybe better players than they are. Or I'm not going to say better people because I mean that's an onion you don't get into till you start peeling back a lot of layers of who somebody is. But it's really hard with the parents. And that's where my seat for all the years I was a college coach, you guys have dealing with youth in a way, a more difficult job from that standpoint because you're dealing with what you're given in that community. You're dealing with what you're given on that high school team. We recruited parents. Okay.
Right.
So if we had some delusional parents that we couldn't get to, unfortunately, that a lot of times that would disqualify a young man or a young woman from an opportunity.
Right.
And so, is that fair? Maybe not. But as we know, life's not fair. Okay. And it's also not fair for the 14 other kids on the team if we have a bunch of guys that are like-minded with like-minded families, and then we bring in somebody from the outside that can sabotage that. And so that goes back to always protecting your culture in college and always protecting the program and always protecting everybody else's experience as well. It can't be just about one. It's got to be about 15.
Exactly. That is so true.
Yeah, I had a coach who used to tell us if you want it fair, go to Pomona. Pomona has a fair every year.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think if a parent is going to be neglectful, in the way they're breaking their social contracts, especially when it's not their future at stake, it's their children. So, if they don't have the mindfulness to, be aware of what's, read the room, yeah, it actually is fair because if everybody else is agreeing to the social contract and you standing like a sore thumb, Yeah, you gotta take this taping and
Here's the thing, man. More parents have cost kids opportunities than they've ever got for them from a recruiting standpoint.
Hmm.
Okay, more parents about what they say, about how they act in the stands. I mean, I'll just tell you at Marshall, when we would go recruit in AAU,
Hmm.
we're obviously watching the games. We're watching the stands too. We want to
Mm.
see who that kid's parents are, how they're acting in the stands, how they're interacting with the officials, how they're interacting with the other parents. All that stuff matters. To matter to us.
Absolutely.
It mattered to us, and so some people might not put value on that. We did, not saying it's right or wrong, but we just wanted parents that wanted the best for their children, supported them every step of the way, and we could work together with. Because guess what? When those kids are on our campus, if I can't pick up the phone and call a mother and say, I need your help, so and so is not getting on the board with what we're trying to do,
Mm.
I need that mom or dad to pick up the phone and call that 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, because even though you're a man when you're 18, your mind's not. Okay. At least mine
Right.
wasn't. Okay.
Right. Right.
and tweak a little bit. And kids that have been raised the right way with the right parents, they change like that when that happens.
I get it. Yeah, you got to put the time in with the kids, in order to get the results that you want. And so yeah, you do have to you got to be present. Got
Yes.
to.
Yes.
So yeah, you gotta, and the parents, yeah. And parents generally don't want their kids acting rowdy in public. So why would you as
That's
a
right.
parent act rowdy in public?
It's
Exactly.
it's well, that I mentioned peeling back the layers of the onion. That gives you a little insight into what you may be getting if you're not careful.
You're not
Absolutely.
careful. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Because yeah, they
right.
say the fruit don't fall far from the tree.
Very true. It's very true. You know what? That although kids have changed, no, parents have changed. Okay,
Yeah.
kids are kids. Kids have been kids forever, for the history of the world. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you're going to model the behavior as a young man or young woman that you see every day. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that is true. Very true. Oh
Wow.
yeah. So, oh
Have
man.
you have you ever
So,
had to fire a parent and their kid from a program?
Gosh. No, not from my program, but I've stopped recruiting kids before I've gotten them.
Gotcha.
Based
Mm.
on that. Yeah, I've stopped, and sometimes as an assistant as well. I'll get into a situation where I start recruiting a young man, and I might even really like him, but I just know the guys that I have worked for. If I
Mhm.
brought that family to the table, they look at me like, "What are you doing, man? We're,
Mm.
we're not bringing this into our program." You
Right.
know, and so, and everybody's different. Some coaches are willing to maybe put up with a little bit more, or take a few more chances on maybe a little bit different circumstances that others wouldn't. And then I've worked for guys that they wanted it in a box, neat. We ain't moving outside of that. I don't care how good he is. It don't matter. Those guys lose you games in your locker room. You might not think so, but when stuff gets tough late in the year and you go on a 3-game losing streak, I want guys I can lose with. You've heard that
Yeah.
saying.
right.
I've heard
Yeah.
that.
And so, yeah, I've never had to I've had to dismiss young men off my team, but I've never had to dismiss a young man that I've signed because of a parent. Luckily,
Right.
Right. So,
yeah.
it brings me to this question here because, we always getting on the parents, right? But I've known some incidents where some coaches of high schools that are helping the parents and the kids get recruited. Like, I mean, have you ever come across that coach that really was doing a little too much, I would say?
Oh yeah, you have people that want to be more involved than maybe what they should be, and like they want to have their hands. And a lot of times you see it with maybe like a single mother.
Mm.
Okay,
Right.
that's where you see it a lot of times because let's just be honest, a lot of single mothers didn't play basketball or they weren't recruited, so they don't know the process. So they're
Right.
looking for help anyway. They need some guidance. Okay. Well, who are they going to look to help for? Probably the guy that their son spends a lot of time with and coaches him. I mean, that's a
Right.
natural thing. And so, more so with like single mothers that we would see the high school coaches try to, uh, maybe manipulate or put their 2 cents in a little stronger a lot of times. Most of the families that we recruit that have strong fathers in the picture, that doesn't become an issue because they are going to hear what the coach has to say, but we're making a family decision.
Right.
We're making this is about the man or the men that my son is about to be around every day. I got to make sure that's checked off, you know. And as a single mother, a lot of times, not that you don't know if a guy's good or not if you're a single mom, but you probably don't know much about the recruiting process or how it goes down or, well, do we have to sign early? They offered a scholarship. I mean, you know, there's just more worry there and angst. And so that might be a stereotypical answer, but it is for a reason. It's real. That's what we've seen a lot in coaching.
Yeah, numbers don't lie.
No, they don't. They don't. And so, you know, anytime a guy has a dad in the picture too, I know I can pick up the phone, and if he's the dad that we want, that type of kid in our program, I call that dad, you better believe things are changing quickly.
Right.
You better believe.
Hey, Coach, there's been like a quiet debate that's been starting to kind of bubble, and I want to kind of get your opinion on it. It's a coaching, recruiting type of question.
Okay.
Do you think that it's best for kids coming out of school to be more well-rounded players in different areas, or is it better to be more of a specialist at something?
You mean like multiple sports?
No, I'm talking about just specifically, let's say basketball. Like, you know, should I like for somebody
like a
who's
3-point specialist?
Right, yeah. So, you know, as a shooter, should I concentrate just on shooting, or should I concentrate on, you know, also my defensive prowess, also my basketball IQ, like becoming more well-rounded,
right?
Versus becoming, you know, a specialist.
You know what? That's a two-layered answer. You never want to forget who you are. Okay. So if you're a shooter, like I coached AAU for a couple of years when I was an NAIA coach. And my advice to kids when we would go on the circuit is don't show them what you can't do. So like, if I'm not a great shooter, please don't go out and go 1 for 7 from 3. All right. Do what you do well. When you're working on your game, you got to work on all of it. You got to improve your weaknesses. You got to turn, hopefully, your weaknesses into mediocres or your weaknesses into strengths. But it's all setting based. You know, if I'm trying to win a game in the conference tournament, I'm not going to sit up here and just try to prove to everybody that I can make shots when that's not what I do. I want to win the game. So do what I do to help my team win the game. But when I'm working on my game, I got to get better at everything. I got to become a better. Now, some of those things are non-negotiable. Okay. For example, being a good defender, you got to be a good defender, man. You got to figure out how to guard. If you're quick and you can get up in somebody in pressure, get up in them in pressure. If you have slow feet, but you have good instincts, you might need to play off a little bit, but you still got to be able to guard.
Right.
You know, you can't just be like, well, I'm a great shooter. I don't have to worry about guarding anybody. You know, you got to use your angles and your rotations and be a great help defender and all those things if you have slow feet. And so, but I would always, that would be my thing with the youth and trying to earn a scholarship. Don't go out here and show all these coaches what your worst attribute, what you can't do. They probably already have at least have him leaving the gym like, man, you know, I don't know if he can shoot it, but he's really good at, he gets in the paint, he kicks out, he makes his teammates better. You know, he's a problem in transition. He puts pressure on the rim. If you can do all those things well, but you're trying to prove you're a shooter and you jack 10 threes, now they're going to be like, well, this kid doesn't even know who he is. He can't shoot. And the things he might be able to do well, he doesn't try to do. Well, then they're definitely going to stay away from you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of, because of that debate, you know, a lot of people are looking at it in NBA, because I heard a lot of people say, you know, you have to be a knockdown shooter to get it to the league and those other different things. Yes, you do. And, you know, but a lot of teams, from what I see, and some of the coaches and players that I've talked to about it, is that everybody plays a particular role at that level.
100%.
But don't get it twisted. They all can do everything at a high percentage. But, you know, they have to do their part and their role, as I would say. You know what I mean? So so there is a debate, but at the end of the day, when you're at that highest level, trust me, those guys can do it all, but they have to play that role.
So
You
they
know,
got
it
so they
kind
got
of
to be
reminds
well-rounded
me.
specialists.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, Ron, honestly, of, if you'll remember when you guys came and visited us at Marshall, we had the young man Tavion Kinsey.
Oh yeah, yeah,
he was good.
And Tavion, coming in, he was never known as a great shooter. Now he's turned into a really good shooter because of multiple reasons. A lot of it, shot selection, when to shoot, when to drive. But at the end of the day, he's an elite level athlete that is a phenomenal defender that will do whatever you ask him to do and play really hard. And he's developed his game enough over the years to be able to make 3-point shots at the right clip when he needs to take them.
Right.
He's never going to be Klay Thompson or Steph Curry.
No.
Okay. But he can be a 38% 3-point shooter because he takes the right ones.
He takes the right ones. Correct.
That's IQ.
It is. It is. It really is. I mean, I'm going to brag this a little bit on AJ, my other son. When he left Ohio to go to Florida, one of the stats that I didn't even look at was his efficiency. He was over 50% from his efficiency from shooting. I mean, and he shot more threes than he did twos. And he shot it at a very, very high clip. And you hit on the head. It's about taking the right shots and the right shot selections and stuff like that. So being a well-rounded player, you have to, but I think the IQ falls in, and then you have to know when to take the shots to become that quote unquote kind of a specialist. You know what I mean? And shooting, if you want to say it for that matter.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with that.
One of our closing questions here. So so when it's all said and done, what legacy do you hope to leave behind in the coaching community and with players when you've coached?
Well, I think I've touched on this throughout, but I want my kids and my guys that I've coached to know I love them. That I got their back, no matter what, whether they're wrong or right. If they're wrong, I'll tell them and be honest with them. Okay, and if they're right, I'll always have their back. And I want to be somebody that, like this call right here. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed talking with you guys. I love talking ball. Just because I'm out of the game, I want coaches to feel like we can still connect and I can still add value.
Right.
If they want to hear from me. If not, I'm as good as anybody being quiet and going over and sitting on the sideline. I don't have to say a thing. But I want to be available to my former colleagues and my friends that are still in coaching. And, the definition of a friend to me is somebody that no matter what circumstance you're in, you can pick up the phone and they're going to answer and try to help you. Okay.
Right.
That to me, that's a friend. And I want those guys to know I'll always be a friend, not just a colleague, but a friend, because this coaching community, man, it runs deep and it's a special thing in all sports. It's anytime you're helping, you're in coaching, all coaching is you're taking young men and you're getting them to a spot in life or in the sport that they could not get to without you. They couldn't get there by themselves. Okay.
Right.
Coaching is leading someone to a spot they could not get to on their own. That's what coaching is. Right. Whether that's academic coaching, sport coaching, life coaching. And so I want all my players to know I'll always be their coach, no matter what. And I want all my friends to know I'm always an open book of advice, right or wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Oh man, yeah, we appreciate you because, I mean, I when we first met, we kind of clicked a little bit there. We enjoyed you coming to the house, and I'm gonna say this, and I know people are going to see this, but you gave one of the best presentations. You gave one of the best recruiting presentations, So yeah, and I have to ask you, and I'm going to ask you on here now, those cookies. There were some great cookies.
Oh man, hey, yes they were. Man. They were great cookies.
yes. No. We appreciate you, Coach, and I'm definitely glad that you picked up the phone to enjoy, to have this moment with us. Because one of the things that we want to do, we want to reach out to all the positive people out there to give their word and their little bit of their experience to help the youth grow today, to understand that getting to the next level, it's a lot. but there's people out here that you can talk to and you can come to and get advice from. And that's what you showed us today with what you said. And we appreciate that for sure.
Well, I appreciate you guys for having me. And, one thing about young people, they always need leadership and guidance, always. And that'll be from now till the end of time. And the people that are willing to give their time, and like you guys are, and to try to lead the youth, it takes special people to do that. So I commend you all for that as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, as a matter of fact, man, we appreciate it. I appreciate your commentary, all your insight, and I think what I try to do is I try to help people see, the things that we need to improve our game, because we're trying to get rid of all this bad basketball out here. It's a lot of it's a lot of funky things happening on
Good luck.
Sports.
Good luck. Oh man, yeah, I laugh because that's a real statement.
Yeah. Coach, if I mentioned these guys that are making $10 million to coach, right?
Yeah.
If you can figure out how to do what you just said, you're going to be one of them.
There you go.
Okay, you might be at the top of that list, because it's one of the things that always makes me laugh is, being up in the stands. I've been to a couple university. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee now. Okay. And I've been to a couple UT games since I've been here. My buddy's one of the coaches on the staff, and I'll go and I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'll hear people say, what is Coach Barnes doing? Why would he do that? And I'm thinking, like, you think Coach Barnes told that kid to shoot that shot? You think he told him to shoot that? You know what I mean? Right. So it's funny, man. But that's coaching. Trying to get kids to do the right thing time after time and lead them to greatness. It's tough to do sometimes, but it's rewarding. What we get to do is rewarding.
It truly is.
It truly is. Exactly. It really is. All right, Ronald.
All right. So definitely, I was definitely happy to hear all the insight that you had, Coach Williams. Definitely, thank you for being on the Off the Bench podcast today, and I hope all the viewers listened and have a great rest of your day.
I appreciate it, guys. Best of luck. I love what you're doing, and let me know if I can ever help with anything, okay?
I'm sure we're going to be giving you a call again, Coach, because we're going to be trying to do this for a long time.
Yes,
okay, let's finish up strong in SEC play, okay? Let's make sure we take care of business.
All right. Go Gators. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
All right. Appreciate you.
Grow deep, yeah, okay. No cameras when I showed up tired, no claps when I stayed inspired. Just me and the work late nights, learning discipline, don't need a spotlight. Progress whisper, ego shout. I chose roots when they chose routes. Every brick laid in the unseen, built a life they couldn't interrupt later on. Silence taught me patience, waiting, sharpened vision. What they call slow motion, I call precision. I was built in the quiet, when nobody knew my name. Pressure turned into diamonds, rain watered every plant. I was built in the quiet, stillness sharpened my sight. What you seen, I took seasons, I was growing out of sight. Jazz chords in my spirit, minor tones. Lessons hit deeper when you alone, trap beats still knock, but the soul lit. Every move intentional, low-key. I don't rush fruit, I let it ripen. Every delay was perfect timing. They saw absence, I saw preparation. God was building me between conversations. No applause, no witnesses, just consistency and discipline. When the door finally opened wide, I was already equipped. I was built in the quiet, when nobody knew my name. Pressure turned into diamonds, rain watered every plant. I was built in the quiet, stillness sharpened my sight. What you seen, I took seasons. carry, don't need noise. Depth speaks without a voice.